All right, here we go. Sorry about that, y'all. So sorry. So sorry. Uh, Good afternoon, and just chilling here for a bit. I mean, I got nothing planned for Memorial Day. And for those who plan to observe Memorial Day, have at it, do your thing. And I am not going to be bad mouthing any veterans or whatnot. Let's not get into that today. I'm just chilling here, and part of me wanted to do this stream because I don't I don't watch too much of Jubilee, not too often, but I think I'm gonna make an exception for today because apparently, just make sure it's working. Yeah, apparently, Glenn Greenwald, he he had an appearance on Jubilee in which he's debating 20 MAGA conservatives. And let's just say I saw a clip of it. I was like, wow, you know what? Let me get this up and running. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna get this up and running because from what I was seeing and hearing, good Lord. He was cooking, but good Lord. Good Lord. Good Lord, have mercy. Oh, man. Yeesh. Yeesh. Let me pull it up. I think it's Jubilee. Jubilee. Glenn Greenwald. Is the full thing up? Yeah, it's up. It is up. It is up. So, okay. You know what? This is craziness. All right. Okay. Let me get this up and running. Yeah, share screen. This is craziness. This is craziness. I'm gonna add this to the stage. And let's just have some, you know what? Nah. Let's just have some fun. Holy crap. All right. Let's let this roll.
President Trump is more of a war-making president than a peacemaking president.
If you would like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Micah.
Good to
meet you, Glenn. So first I want to just ask, what makes a peacemaking president?
A peacemaking president is somebody who, in the first place, avoids war for their own country, either solves and resolves wars that they inherit or prevents wars from breaking out that they would get their country involved with.
Okay, so you agree that prevention is a part of what makes a president a peacemaking president?
For sure.
Okay, so then what about Trump's foreign policy is not prevention?
Well, the first thing that he did in getting to office, basically within 30 days, was restarted a bombing campaign that President Biden had prosecuted throughout.
Sure did. Sure did.
2024 that President Trump during the campaign had heavily criticized. Yet as soon as President Trump got into office, he not only restarted that bombing campaign, but escalated it. That was the one in Yemen against the Houthis. It went on for about 5-6 weeks, or entailed hundreds of people
Was
who were
that
dead.
not necessary for like global trade to ensue? Was the Houthis not attacking multiple different ships? And
No, the Houthis were only attacking Israel at the time that President Trump did that. There was a peace deal that President
that's
Trump
true.
engineered that ended up being very temporary. And the Houthis said, for as long as this peace deal is in place, we won't attack ships. Once the Israelis started violating it, not letting food, they said, we're only going to attack Israeli
So here's
ships.
a
And that's when
question. Here's a
President Trump
question for you,
attacked.
Glenn. Are we still in conflict in Yemen?
No, President Trump ended his own war that he started.
Okay, so then by your definition, did we not prevent further conflict by having this conflict? And would we not free up the trade routes in Yemen from being attacked by the Houthis? It's free, is it not?
It's like saying I stabbed myself in the stomach, but then I brought myself to the ER where I had a doctor fix me up, and that proves that I'm really interested in fitness and self-care. President Trump started the war in
Exactly,
Yemen. He
bro.
escalated the war in
Were-
Yemen. It was stopped at the
Were the
time that he
Houthis
took
attacking
over.
people or not?
They were attacking a foreign country called Israel that is not part of the United States.
Okay,
So
do these
Bro. And you jumped in and helped the Israelis. But of course, he doesn't want to focus on that. But whatever.
international
you-
trade routes not affect America?
No, not when it's only Israel whose ships are being attacked. You can say the war is just. The question is President Trump making war or making peace? You can say, okay, he made war in Yemen, but I think the war is just. He's still a war-making president by
Right. I think
definition. There was no war when he got in.
by the result of the conflict that it was a peacemaking military engagement. We have peace.
How
in
did it
Yemen
end?
now.
How did it end?
How did it end?
It ended by the Houthis saying, we will not attack anybody except the Israelis, and as long as they're denying food and water entering into Gaza. And they continue to do so and achieve nothing. All it did was have the United States deplete our missiles, our military force, our resources. It was a war that didn't exist, that Trump created.
Yep.
Yes, congratulations, he ended his own war, but that is an example of a war-making president. That's just one example. There's
think
obviously war in Iran as well, that he inherited a presidency where we were not at war with Iran. We are now at war with Iran. We've twice gone to war with Iran under President Trump. That's
Okay,
another
so
war that he's made.
Do you not agree that Iran is a major threat and destabilizes the Middle East all the time?
I don't, but we'll get to whether the war is just. The question now is, does President Trump make more wars?
Well,
you
think,
seem to be
so
acknowledging
I want to
he
go
makes
back
wars, but
to
that
what
they're
you
just.
initially agreed to, though, is that part of what makes a peacemaking president isn't just, oh, we don't start any conflicts. It's actually engaging in conflicts to prevent further.
How the fuck does that make any sense? You engage in conflicts to end conflicts. That's not how. You engage in conflicts to end a conflict. If you engage in a conflict, and especially offensively, that ain't how you end a conflict, sir. Let's just put it this way. I'm going to start a fight to end a fight. Does that make any sense? I'm going to start a fight to end a fight. That makes zero sense. Yo.
Peace. Did you read 1984 by George Orwell?
Well, no, I'm just.
No, but I'm just asking.
I'm literally quoting what you said earlier at the beginning.
No,
of this
but George
conversation.
Orwell in 1984 described the most extreme kind of propaganda by war-making tyrannies. And one of the things citizens
Glenn,
get told is war
though,
is peace.
Did you not admit that part of what makes a peacemaking president is stepping in and preventing further conflicts?
Yes, but you can't prevent conflicts by starting conflicts.
Exactly. Oh my God. You can't do that. Do you hear yourself, sir? I'm gonna engage in a conflict to end a conflict. You can't end one by starting one. Oh my God.
Conflicts is starting conflicts.
Why can you not use
the wars
Pause
that he
there.
started?
Can you
We
not
got to pause
start-
here, Michael. We got to pause here. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, in reference to Trump being a peacemaking president or a warmongering president, let's say, for example, let's start with the conflicts that he did indeed stop, right? For example, Pakistan, India. Pakistan nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. They said that he specifically played a big role in preventing that conflict. Well, India disagreed, but Pakistan, regardless, said that he played a key role in preventing it. We had Thailand versus Cambodia also break out. Cambodia nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize and also said that he prevented that conflict. I'd also say in reference to Venezuela, obviously no one thinks that Maduro was good there. The tyranny was crazy. The way that he was leading the government, everyone agrees.
Where the hell is he getting this information from? Maduro's a tyrant. Where's he getting this information from? Who is he getting this information from?
But he was able to take Maduro out, and Desi Rodriguez, who's now the vice president, is very, you could say, subordinate or servile, right? 50 million barrels of oil, restricting...
No, Desi Rodriguez is a rat. She's betrayed her people. Yeah, she's subservient, but she's a traitor. Oh, she is a traitor. Ooh.
Cuba, so on and so forth. And so I would disagree that he's a warmongering president.
Okay, the point is not he's a warmongering president. The formulation is he's more of a war-making president than a peacemaking president. So even in your examples, including in Venezuela, you're not denying that he used military force in a way that is considered an act of war by every country on the planet. You're defending the wars that he's making by saying they lead to good outcomes, which we can debate, but that's a separate question from the proposition. As far as these wars that you're concerned that I know he loves to cite, India was vehement that he had no role to play of any meaningful kind in mediating that conflict between India and Pakistan. That is a war that goes back, that conflict goes back many hundreds of years.
So does many of these other
Trump.
conflicts.
But even, let me ask you these questions, this question about these other conflicts that you named. Were those part of the 2024 campaign? Did
Not
anyone ever
necessarily, but I don't
mention
think
that, right? But you know why? Because they're completely trivial, and because the role that the United States plays in them is also essentially trivial as well. These and a lot, we can analyze those, but let's be clear. The real question is, does President Trump make war for the United States? Whether he plays some ancillary role in this, well, we're in a major war.
Well, so let's
we're in a major war now,
so
right? We're in a major war, aren't we? In Iran?
I mean, sure, we're in a conflict, but I don't think this is where you actually got it wrong.
Is it a war? Is it a war?
You can call it's a war and a conflict. There's no necessary, there's no disagreement there. It's a conflict and a war. It's both, right? But the conflict didn't start recently.
Bro. A war is a conflict. You don't just... Oh, my God.
Right. In 1979, Iran kidnapped 66 Americans and held them hostage for over 400 days. Right. So
why did they do that?
Happened because they're anti-Western. But hold on, just let me finish this. So the conflict with Iran.
Whoa. You're just going to just not include the fact that they wanted to liberate themselves from a dictator, a puppet, a Western puppet installed dictator? You're just going to roll past that? That's not how you do it. So then tell me, how do you do it?
Or our issues with Iran in reference to specifically the Islamic Republic started more there. In 1982, 3 years later specifically, there was the Beirut barracks bombing, which I'm sure you're familiar with, where 242 Americans were killed in Beirut. They were there as a peacekeeping force, actually. And guess who specifically? I believe in 2002, a federal judge actually ruled that Iran supplied Hezbollah and gave them intelligence to kill 242 Americans. On top of that, I believe in Venezuela, they have the Quds Force as well that is there. They fund three main terror groups. According to the FDD, they spent about $16 billion doing so, right? Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen. And by the way, the last guy, you were also wrong. $200 billion worth of economic damage in reference to the Red Sea, where 1/10 of trade goes through.
Were we at war with Iran when President Trump was inaugurated?
No, we weren't directly in
Are we
in
at war
terms of,
now?
Right, so I
he
think
made
I would,
that
I would
war,
say,
right?
wait,
He was
hold
a war
on, stop.
No,
So
I mean,
I'd
talked a lot. I
would say that we're
answer.
already in a conflict. I would say that, yes, generally, not like war in terms of declaring war conspicuously, but yes, we've been in a conflict, a long-standing conflict.
The proposition is President Trump is more of a war-making president.
Right, I don't think any of those conflicts were made by Trump. That's where you're wrong.
India and Pakistan were in conflict prior to the war that you mentioned,
and
right?
we were in conflict with Iran.
Exactly. There are a lot of people who are there are a lot of countries that are in conflict with one another.
Right.
They're not all at war. Most of them are not at war. The United States became in a war with Iran when Israel and the United States announced that they were attacking Iran and started a war with Iran. Of course, there's conflicts. There's conflicts between Brazil and Argentina. There's conflicts between Peru and Uruguay. There's conflicts between.
You're being vague.
I'm being very specific. I'm talking about a war.
So there's a difference between smaller conflicts or like a general conflict that's going on for a long time and like a large scale war, and even like, for example, small military engagements. Like, for example, Midnight Hammer, we bombed Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, were more smaller engagements, right? And by the way, we pulled out pretty quickly, and everything was fine afterwards.
If Russia came to the United States and bombed 3 different nuclear facilities in the United States with B-52 bombers of the Russian Soviet analog, would you consider that to be an act of war?
Yeah, you're saying it would be casus belli, right?
No, I'm not
casus
talking about
belli means act of war.
Yeah, would you?
So it would be casus belli. That's the answer.
Okay, congratulations on using Latin. I'm just wanting to. I don't want to necessarily test your language. That would be an act of war, right?
Yeah, the same way that.
Let him talk and answer. Like, you're trying to speedball answer.
Hey,
hold on. The same way that, for example, the IRGC, the Pakistani guy that was recently convicted, he admitted that the IRGC paid him and tried to give him intelligence to assassinate Donald Trump around the time where Butler happened. That's also casus belli.
Were we at war with Iran?
The fact that the IRGC tried to kill our president.
Were we at war with Iran?
The electorate elected
were we at war
is
with
an act
Iran?
of war.
Were we
so
at
yeah,
war?
we've been in conflict and an act of war with
no,
Iran for a very long time.
Okay, but you just,
and it's funny that you're not mentioning. You're not mentioning the fact that 242 Americans were killed in Beirut in 1982.
The United States has killed countries throughout the Middle East. You know what President Reagan did in response to that? He said the reason this happened is because we have a military base in Lebanon where we shouldn't be, and he withdrew those troops. That's because he knew that the reason we were being attacked was because we were interfering in that region.
Yeah, we were there
the reason that Iran took over and the embassy was because we had overthrown their democratically elected government in 1953 and imposed a savage, brutal tyranny on them that ruled that country from 1953 until the revolution in 1979.
Sure.
But these are all historically interesting points that we could talk about with the justification. No, it's not wrong. The point is, I asked you earlier, was the United States at war with Iran?
The answer is yes.
But you said no. And
it depends on how you're defining war. It depends on how you're defining war in long-term conflict. But let me hold on.
The point is, we were not at war, as you said the first time when I asked you, with Iran. When President Trump took office, he didn't talk about there being a war throughout.
No, he talked about 2011,
and we are now in a war because
even by the way,
made a war.
He continued saying Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. By the way, can you explain to me the reason for 60% rich uranium? No country that has tried to, or even been in talks of trying to get a nuclear weapon, has ever reached 60% and not gotten to 90%.
Because President Trump invalidated the agreement where they were only at 3%. President Trump make this war.
No, that's not. The answer is no.
So we were in a
general.
We were at war.
We have been at a general conflict with Iran, or you could say even a war.
I am saying
over 47 years.
And President Trump just forgot to mention that we were at war when he was running for president in 2024, and never said, "Hey, by the way, we're at war with Iran."
He openly said, no. He's been very conspicuous about this. He's been very clear about the fact that we have a conflict with Iran. We have issues with Iran.
A war. We do have conflict.
Right. Again, I don't think you understand it. Wars can also be conflicts.
Exactly,
so
but conflicts aren't necessarily wars. The question is, was there a war with Iran? And if so, why didn't President Trump bother to mention, hey, by the way, we're at war with Iran in 2024? And
he's been very conspicuous about it.
So the war didn't start.
What would be the incentive? Just like, hey, we're at war with Iran? Look, everyone understands that we've been at a long-term conflict.
Nobody understood because it was never true.
And by the way,
we got to pause here. Can we just hear your response, and then we got to stop?
Yeah, there were several wars that President Trump started in Yemen, Venezuela, and Iran. You can say they're just or not, but these wars did not exist. Nobody said they existed during the 2024 campaign, including President Trump. And when he announced them, he announced them as with the United States in 2024.
All right, pause.
You don't even know how to let somebody respond, bro. Let somebody respond, bro. Just because you speed ball and talking doesn't mean, like, if he's trying to get an answer, no, I'm like, bro, let somebody fucking answer. Like, he wouldn't even attempt to let Glenn Greenwald answer, and he just left out facts. But whatever.
Hello, how are you? Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Okay, so I want to get back to the prompt about peace versus war. So the way I look at it is the first Trump administration was a peaceful administration. There was no new wars that were started, right? We have the Abraham Accords, which Trump should have won a Nobel Peace Prize for because it was historic. And then we had something that was ahistoric, right? So the Biden administration came in between. It kind of disrupted Trump's foreign policy. And under the Biden administration, we saw the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was really a green light to our anti-Western adversaries that we didn't really have the strong will to defend U.S. hegemony abroad. Following that, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And then we saw Biden trying to re-engage in JCPOA negotiations as a legacy of the Obama administration. And he unfroze $16 billion in assets to the regime and then also waived sanctions so they could sell over $100 billion.
Whose assets were those?
They're theirs, but they're frozen. That's
Iran's assets.
correct, but that's going against the maximum pressure campaign. So if you don't want war, how do you then deter a belligerent actor if it's not maximum sanctions? What would your solution be then? To let them.
In general, in every other country on the planet except the United States and Israel, war is talked about as a last resort, something that you engage in only if there's a country that's attacking you,
Which war
or
are we
attacking
talking
your
about?
homeland, or attacking. What's
Okay,
that?
so the sanctions are a legacy of the
answer.
Iraq-Iran war in the 1980s. So which war are we talking about? The current operation, which is not a war.
I'm talking-
This is annoying. You gave him, and then you don't let him answer. He lets you go the whole thing. At least give him the courtesy of answering.
About why we should be at war with Iran at all.
Right, the second.
And you're saying, what is it that we should be doing
Well,
to Iran?
I'm saying my point with talking about the Biden regime, the Biden administration, was that they empowered. We could maybe use regime. They empowered the Iranian regime diplomatically, financially, which then positioned them for October 7th. And also the Houthis. It is true, the Houthis blocked off the Suez Canal for 4 to 5 months. We also had British military naval ships in the region, U.S. military ships. So they weren't just attacking Israel, although, yes, that was a part of it. So we saw a destabilized Middle East because of the direct empowerment
let me
with Iran.
just, it's interesting because I think there's a very American perspective because we are a country that is constantly at war, unlike everybody else on the planet. The last time China fought a war was 1979, and one of the reasons they're displacing the United States and every region in the
proxy
globe,
powers
including
around the world.
Latin America and Africa, is because they spend their resources building up their country while we have our country deteriorating because we spend so much time and money and effort and
Well, that's
resources
one
on
take.
foreign
The other
wars.
take is that they don't have the conventional capabilities to
They
enact a
they have a
full-out war.
massive, gigantic military. They just don't. They just know
but we still
that, which
deter
is
that
what, by
because
the
of
way,
our
which was what
military.
President Trump's primary political appeal was that we're constantly fighting these foreign wars. We have to stop fighting foreign wars in the Middle East so that we can focus on our own communities and our own country. And here we are back in another one. But I think the point about Iran is that the idea that we can just go and steal countries' money, as you said, it's
But that's not
Iran's
what the point of the
assets. They
claim
have
is.
oil
The
in their
claim is
country.
that we're a
Let me
war-making
just
country.
finish. They sell their oil to other countries. They receive money for it. We take that money using our dollar as the reserve currency. We steal it and freeze it, and then
We don't steal
somehow
it. We are
I should also say
punishing
that
a belligerent regime.
President Trump just lifted sanctions on Iranian oil at sea,
Right.
enabling
it was
them to
a
get huge
will
amounts
good
of money.
faith. It was a good faith
No,
action
it was
for China.
because he
Yes,
needed
for
to
the
do that because
negotiations.
we need oil on the global market because of oil
It's been
because
closed
gas
for-
prices are so
it's
high.
still lower than it was under the Biden administration.
No, I'm
at
saying
the peak of the Biden
we
administration.
because of this
What are you
war,
talking-
President Trump lifted sanctions on Iranian oil at sea.
Yes, as
they
a
are now
goodwill to China to
charging
bring it to
money.
the
They are
negotiation
now
table.
charging money for the Strait of Hormuz, and
Yes, 'cause that's the only
and there's
tactic they
no
have
way
left.
there will be an end to this war that we're currently.
So then why are we at war with Iran then? Why are we at war with Iran then? Why are we at war with Iran then? Did Iran, since they're the belligerent actor, did they start this? Did they start any of this? I mean, they could have had multiple chances. Iran could have to retaliate. I mean, my God, how many generals or scientists, especially, how many generals or scientists have they killed of theirs? You stole. They just want to bypass all that. Like the United States is the good guys.
Negotiating unless the sanctions are lifted on Iran.
They're
Because
completely wiped out at the knee. Let me just get back to what I was saying about the Biden administration because it's important. So we look at how diplomacy has never worked. The JCPOA completely empowered the regime. Same thing with Biden again. So Trump came into a region that was completely changed. Also just globally, right? I believe the Iranian regime bought 2.5 million acres in Venezuela, which is in our Western hemisphere. So he came into a world where our anti-Western adversaries had gained strategic holdings that hinder U.S. hegemony abroad. So he went into the region and he said, okay, I'm going to negotiate with the Iranian regime. They didn't come as good faith actors to the negotiation table. Operation Midnight Hammer was a preemptive strike. They still continue
was
to come
Biden
to
at
the
war with
table.
Iran?
I would say, yeah, it's hard to be at war with a regime that you're funding.
So Biden was not at war with Iran?
Well, we were at war with Iran via Israel, if you want to look at it as a proxy situation.
So Biden was fighting a war against
and also
Iran?
another thing, you keep saying that Trump started wars
No, I'm
in
just-
Yemen,
I'm trying to
in
figure out if
Lebanon.
we were
Again,
about
but those
this
are
war.
proxy wars funded by Iran.
Was
those
the United
those
States at
conflicts
war
existed
with-
way before
was
President Trump
Biden-
came.
Answer his fucking question. Like, you're trying to bypass something right now. Yo, they have a blind spot. They're making it so partisan and not realizing it's a whole duopoly thing. Oh, my God.
Biden
office.
waging a war against Iran.
He was funding the regime and empowering them.
Okay,
so the
was
answer
he
is no. It's really hard
okay,
to wage
so the
war
in
against
Iran,
a regime that
exactly.
you're
So the
propping
war
up.
in Iran was started by President Trump in the second
The
term,
war
correct?
in Iran is First off, it's not a war; it's an operation. We have highly discriminately taken out
What
heads
would
of
be
the
a war be?
IRGC.
Oh my God.
How is it not a war?
Well, it's not a war because the Iranian regime
We're
can't
blowing up
respond
their
in a way
bridges.
that
We're
necessitates
blowing up
war.
their bridges.
Yes, it's an
We're
operation.
blowing up their,
and they've been blowing
what's
up the Middle East
between a war and
since.
no, I'm just trying to, again, the proposition we're supposed to be discussing.
Right,
And I
he's
realize why
war-making.
you don't want to and others don't want to is
No, I am. I'm
let
demonstrating
me-
how the
let me- I
regime
have
was
to-
empowered when
you
Trump
have
came
to let
to
me
office,
finish.
so it
You
necessitated
have
a
to let-
response that was different
you
than his
have to let
first
me finish.
administration when there was
Was
peace through
president?
restraint.
You have to let me.
Yo, these people are bad when you don't. He gave you the floor the first go round, and when he attempts to answer, you cut him off immediately. You cut him off immediately. This is so annoying. He gives you the floor to make your case, answer how you're going to answer, and then when he starts for his answer, you cut him off immediately because it doesn't fit the bro, because he's telling the truth. This is just so annoying and maddening. Let him answer the question.
Finish what the question we're supposed to be debating
Which
is that
I answered.
President Trump is more of a war-making president
And I
than a
just said he
peacemaking
came into a
president.
situation in the Middle East that was vastly different than the one that he
No,
left
I
because
understand.
of
I
weak
understand.
foreign
I'm
policy.
trying to ask about war,
Okay, so
which
no,
is
what is the response then? So if it's not high-pressure
was
sanction
President
maximum-
Biden waging a war on Iran? Yes or no?
Well, if you're talking about
Can
responding
you just
to all
answer
of
that?
the
Why
question.
can't
So
you
then yes,
answer?
if Iran is considered the Houthis, the Hezbollah, Hamas, then yes, we
President
were waging a
Biden
war.
was waging a war on
yes,
Iran.
via our proxies.
I thought you said he was so favorable to Iran, that he
I
was
said
treating
he
Iran
empowered
so
the regime.
well.
Yeah, both sides of the conflict, but he empowered the regime.
Were we at war not with Iran's proxies, but with Iran itself under
well,
Joe Biden?
Iran actually broke the status quo of not engaging with Israel, our greatest ally, in May of
Did Joe
2024.
Biden wage a war on Iran?
It's not. First off, again,
Why
I
can't
am
you just
contesting-
answer? Why can't you just
I just
answer?
said yes. If you're going to consider via proxies, which
No,
you
I'm not. I don't
apparently-
mean via proxy. I mean
Well,
directly
you
with
said,
Iran.
Okay, but you're contradicting yourself because you said Trump started wars
I'm
in
only
Yemen,
asking a
and you defined it by
question.
the
I'm
proxies
only
in
asking a
Yemen. So you can't
question.
define war one way for Trump
I'm
and
only
not
asking
apply
a
it.
question.
We got to pause there. We're out of time. Please return to your seat.
Yo, they can't even answer the damn question. You're trying to go all these runarounds. Oh my God. They're brainwashed. Brainwashed.
Yes, if you're going to consider via proxies, which
No, I'm not. I don't mean via proxy. I mean directly with Iran.
Okay, but this is.
Oh God. They're making it so partisan but can't answer it honestly. Oh God.
Raise your flag if you would concede that Trump started this current war with Iran. Okay, so we got two people. Thank you.
They got
My next round of claim is President Trump is subservient to the Israel lobby.
If you'd like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2.
I cannot wait for this. I haven't watched this. I cannot wait to see how this unfolds.
1. Whoa.
Hey, good to meet you. Ryan, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nick Mattel. Okay, I think important thing to do with debates is to define our terms. Can you please tell me what subservient is?
Yes, serving the interest of someone else, taking orders from somebody else, taking direction from somebody else, not in every case, but as a general posture ethos.
Okay, so that's already a problem because subservient doesn't mean not sometimes taking the case, sometimes not. Subservient is literally defined as in a subordinate manner you are controlled by in a very direct way.
You want to set it up so that if you
Right.
can point to one example where President Trump didn't do what Israel wanted, then that means somehow he's not subservient to Israel.
Sure, right
you're
now.
just want to creating a binary framework where as long as you can point to one example
I can
where
point
the
to many
Israelis
examples,
wanted
actually.
something. Right. So that's why I'm saying that is not what this proposition means. It doesn't mean that in each and every case, President Trump is
Right.
fully and absolutely obedient to Israel. If you want me to concede that there are instances, I will be happy to point to some as well well,
not
where
conceding
President Trump or
instances.
other
Okay,
presidents.
you're
So
just
not
galloping.
not the question.
I understand. I'm saying that your claim, it's your claim. I didn't force you to make the claim. Your claim is not there's high influence. Your claim is not any of that. Your claim is he's subservient. And if you're going to say he's subservient, that means something. Now, if we want to change what you're saying and you just want to say he has higher influence from, when you say pro-Israeli, do you just mean Jews? What do you mean by that?
No, of course I don't mean Jews. There are huge numbers of Jews who oppose Israel.
I'm asking, well, generally when I debate this topic, a lot of people will say like, the Adelsons, right? Because they're Jewish, they're Israeli. Or do you mean pro-Israel like you're talking about AIPAC, you're talking about J Street?
People talk about George Soros, but nobody suggests that he's pro-Israel. The reason people talk about the Adelsons is because they gave $300 million to Trump's campaigns, and Trump himself said that every time the Adelsons came to the White House, they didn't ask about the United States, they asked for things for Israel. Trump went to the Knesset last year and said Miriam Adelson loves Israel more than they love the United States.
Is Trump subservient to Elon Musk?
No, I don't think Trump is subservient to
Elon Musk, at least in this last election cycle, gave significantly more than the Adelsons.
Right, he's one individual. He's one individual.
Exactly. One individual gave more than two, and also the lobbying groups. But that being said, what is it that makes you think he's controlled in at least a significant way by whatever you're saying?
What President Trump himself said. President Trump said that every single time Sheldon Adelson came to the White House, they asked for things for Israel, and he gave it to them. They didn't ask for things for the United States. He said that Miriam Adelson.
He didn't say he gave everything they asked for.
Yes, he did. He said
no.
He said every time. He said in fact,
the Golan Heights.
They asked. He gave them even things that they didn't ask for Israel, not for the United States.
Correct. He did not tell them times where they had talks where they disagree. He never talked about that. I know exactly which quote you're talking about. You're adding that in to push your narrative right now.
I'm not adding anything.
We're not here to talk about just the Adelsons. We're here to talk about the pro-Israel lobby. I'm asking you, how do you know that they are controlling Trump at least in a significant enough way to whatever your claim means?
What I'm saying is that President Trump makes decisions in the interest of the Israeli people and the Israeli government over and above the American people, and it's the only country for which that's true. That is subservience.
Okay.
We can go back to the semantic definition, but that is what I mean. And there's so many instances where President Trump has taken steps, and right now his entire focus is on a country that is Israel's primary adversary, that Israel has wanted for decades. The United States to go in and change the regime.
I understand the hyperbole. His entire focus is not on that, but I get it. But my question for you,
I would hope it is. It's a very dangerous war. He should be.
Your argument, you trying to prove your argument's failing because what you're saying is that he is just giving everything they want as if
I didn't say that.
Actually, you literally said that. You said he gave everything they want.
I said at the start, I would
rewind the clip.
I said at the start, if you want to prove that there are times when Trump doesn't give everything to Israel, I would concede that it's not a binary absolute framework.
Right.
I'm trying.
Right, that's what he was saying, but you can't accept that. You just gotta be a single fan that you can't accept that. Bro.
Get my question.
Do you remember when I said that?
I do remember when you said that, and I remember when you contradicted yourself a few seconds later.
What did I say when I contradicted myself?
I already said this point, but here's the problem. When he said that people go in, we want this, and he's like, I don't really agree with that. It's like, well, we'll give you some more money. He's like, okay, I agree with it now. How do you know Trump doesn't just already align with the same ideology?
The reason I know is because President Trump spent a full decade promising people like you and everyone else who voted for him that he was not going to involve the United States in more Middle East wars, in more regime change wars. That is the basis and foundation for Trump's entire political movement. Israel comes to the United States, and there's no way to compare Israel to any other country. Netanyahu came 7 times. No other world leader came twice. We give billions and billions of dollars to Israel. I thought I let you talk, and yet you sit there and say, let me talk, and then I get 6 words out, and you can't control yourself.
Go ahead, Glenn.
So there's no comparison. We give infinitely more money to Israel. We deploy our military forces to protect Israel. President Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu came 7 times, and then when he was done coming, Donald Trump turns around and does exactly what he's been promising for a decade that he wouldn't do, which is he goes to war in the Middle East, a regime change war in the Middle East against Israel's primary enemy, after Netanyahu spent 30 years saying, this is what we want the United States to do. That is how I know that President Trump does things that Israel tells him to, even though he doesn't already believe it.
Well, first off, that's actually not proof that he does. That's just an indication that you might be right, but I'm going to correct your quote. Actually, President Trump said multiple times, just off the top of my head, I'm sure I'm missing some, he said multiple times that he doesn't want to go straight to military action with Iran, but he has made it very, very clear that if negotiations are exhausted, I will use the military option.
For regime change?
Okay, first off, do you know what the 4 goals of the war are in Iran?
I'm asking you,
Do
did he
you
ever
know what the 4 goals
yes,
of the
I
war
do.
are?
Did he
Okay,
ever,
what are they? Is it regime change?
They changed so many times.
No. President Trump,
No. There aren't 4 goals.
There has been 4 stated goals. You can go on the internet right now to the official government website and you will read the 4 goals. At the beginning of the war, Trump, in an interview with the Washington Post, said, "My main goal and why I'm attacking Iran is to free the Iranian people." Is that one of the 4 goals that that President Trump said was his most important objective when going to war with Iran? I'm going to concede something. I agree with you that President Trump speaks in very grandiose measures. He does. I'm not going to. Everything's the biggest thing ever, the most beautiful thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. I'm not going to
disagree. That was a stated goal of the war.
No, it was not. If you listen to our
most
Department of War,
objective.
If you listen to our Department of War, and by the way, you can go on.
It's the president that determines the war objective.
I understand. Okay,
it's not the Department of War. It's the president.
That's not true. I was in the military for 12 years. That's not actually particularly
true. Who was your commander in chief? The Secretary of Defense?
No, it's not.
It was the president, right?
No. First off, that's not how objectives are attained. You're right. He agrees with them or disagrees with them. And again, I agree. Trump will go on interviews and he will say stuff
who sets war goals for the United States?
Well, first off, it's actually a complex measure of how it goes out. Are you asking who agrees with the finalized goals?
When a war is started, who determines what the goals of the war are?
Again, it's a very complex measure.
Correct?
Again, if you're saying agree with, he gets briefs, he gets people from the Pentagon.
Who's the final decision?
He doesn't even want to. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, that's the right question, and that would be the commander in chief.
The president, right?
Right.
So
and so if you look at the official memo,
know what wars are.
If you look at
what the president says,
I got it. If you look at the official memo that was signed by him, that was pushed out and still on the government website to this very day, you can read the main objectives of the war.
Has he said that regime change is one of the goals of the war?
I agree that he's implied it in interviews.
Has he said it explicitly?
In the official memos where he's
that our goal is to protect.
Let me ask you something.
Okay, we got to pause there. We got to pause there.
Answer my question. Has Donald Trump said that a goal of the war in Iran is to free the Iranian people by changing the regime of that country, a regime change war in the Middle East of the kind he said he wouldn't fight? Did Donald Trump say that was a goal of the war or not?
I'm going to answer you.
One word
please,
answer.
Please.
I'm going to answer you.
One word answer, or we got to move on.
Real quick answer. One word. He said it in interviews. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prior to October 7th, America First, it still means America First is having a strong ally in Israel. I find it very interesting, this disproportionate, selective outrage with this pseudo-Israel influence. AIPAC, 3.8 million compared to the billions of dollars from other foreign adversaries. You're talking about subservient. We have the Chamber of Commerce, we have Big Pharma, we have the Real Estate Association, all massively giving more funds to the lobbying world. The influence of Qatar alone, $1 billion on universities and media. Aren't you more concerned about that? Why do you never speak about the Qatari influence in America?
There's no comparing the influence of Qatar in the United States to Israel. And the proof of that is that we don't give $4 billion automatically a minimum every year to Qatar the way we do with Israel. This $3.8 billion that you said, much of which has to be spent at American arms manufacturers like Boeing and Raytheon, is like a gift certificate that the American public gives to Israel and says, here, go shopping for yourself at our arms dealers. There's no other country that gets that. We've given vastly more sums to Israel over the last several decades than any other country by far. We deploy our military for Israel. We don't do that for Qatar. President Trump has been imposing speech codes at universities to protect Israel and not for Qatar. People who demonstrate against Israel are being deported, not for Qatar.
Okay.
And that the amount of money itself, 3.8 is the minimum. That $3.8 billion is the minimum. We gave over $20 billion under President Biden in 2024 to Israel.
You're not being honest.
These are all facts.
Yes. They are facts, but you're not saying the whole story.
What
yes,
else?
Israel is the only country that actually gives us a return on investment. That $3.8 billion, yes, 80% of it is invested right back.
Yo, look at him. He's the only one who's like, yo, I'm a MAGA conservative. I'm like America first. But what you're saying is just bullshit. You just lied. No, they do not. What? Yo.
Back into America, America jobs, American defense. And guess who tests out all of our military equipment? It's Israel, because they are in the front lines of our enemies. They are doing us a favor. We need Israel strategically, and we are grateful to have them as a strong ally.
The American people.
So if an ally uses you to fight someone's wars, give you their materials, and they don't do anything for themselves, they don't go out in the front lines themselves. If put it this way, if an ally is using you to fight all their wars, do all their heavy lifting work, and you're the only one getting bent over backwards, broken backwards, while they just sit pretty, is that an ally or is that a leech? I'll wait for that.
Have turned against Israel because they're sick of having
No,
their
it's because of
resources.
propaganda that you're perpetuating on X. We didn't have an issue of this before October 7th.
If you look at American communities, they're falling apart. This was what President Trump.
This is Israel lobby's fault?
It's not entirely the Israel lobby's fault, but we ought to be focused.
Should we talk about Doge, the $215 billion in Doge? Maybe we should look at that.
The Israeli people have a higher standard of living than tens of millions of people in the United States, and yet
what
they
does
are
that have to
forced
do with Americans?
because Americans are forced to subsidize the Israeli military to send tens of billions of dollars to Israel to go to war for
Israel. So now
Israel.
it's tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah, I just told you in 2024 alone it was above $20 billion.
And by the way, what she's also not being honest about is that our tax dollars go to Israel and they get free health care and education off our dime. And we have none of that here. Let me repeat that. Everything Glenn is saying is true, and everything what she's trying to say, oh, they do everything for us. But again, another thing, off of our tax dollars and dime, they get free health care and free education, and yet we don't. Something is wrong here. Something is very wrong. But proceed onward.
A war.
Exactly. Every time Israel's
what
always
do you mean
at war.
every time? Israel has never asked for boots on the ground, and yes, they were in a war that
No, we pay for their
Biden
wars.
helped
We pay for their
enact.
wars. We pay for those wars.
Because it's to our interest that there is stability in the Middle East, because these are proxies to America as well.
With the wars that Israel
First
starts create
Saturday,
instability,
then
not stability.
Sunday. Do not normalize terrorism and the Islamic Caliphate. Why are you so hyper-focused on our ally?
It's the same way that we started off the first question where people say, no, Trump doesn't make wars, and then, okay, Trump makes them, but they're justified. The point here is we do more for the Israeli lobby than any other country. You started off by saying, no, it's counter, and now you're saying, yes, we do more for Israel,
because
but
they're an ally
it's justified.
with good reason.
A lot
it is justified.
Of course, they're an ally and they're an enemy. They spy on us. They steal
Just
our
like
nuclear
America
secrets.
does.
They spy.
Israel
is the number one surveillance threat.
On everyone.
Not the way that Israel spies on the United States. When I did the Snowden reporting, there are documents that say here are the countries that are the greatest surveillance threat: China, Russia, Iran. Number one on that is Israel, because they treat us like an enemy. They take our money. They sponge off our citizenry. They suck money out of our. They suck money out of our country.
You never want to talk about our actual enemies. You only want to talk about Israel.
I think Israel does more damage to the United States than
by the
almost any
majority.
other country on the planet.
Please return to your seats.
Thank you.
Good job.
God. Oh my God. Oh my God. The way they just bum rushed. Oh, I gotta get this in. It's the same way they've been trying to debate Glenn. Oh, I gotta get this in. I gotta get this in. I gotta get this. I gotta get this in. Oh my God.
So here's the thing. I actually do agree with you that Israel does have an outsized influence on our government in general. I think that it's a policy thing that we have to start putting domestic policy ahead of foreign policy. What I don't agree with is your characterization of it as subservient. I think that implies a greater allegiance to a foreign country than what a president actually has. So let me understand. Tell me some of your reasons why you think it goes beyond influence.
Sure. So for decades in the United States, in both parties, when they had the White House, the policy of the United States has been that the worst thing that the United States has to overcome in the Middle East, when doing deals in the Middle East, when trying to advance our interests in the Middle East, is the fact that the Palestinians do not have a state. And the only way that the United States can ever improve its position in the Middle East is through a two-state solution. That's why, going back to the first Bush administration, back to the Reagan administration, they were threatening Israel. They were indignant with the Israelis that they were expanding settlements in the West Bank, because that would forever prevent a two-state solution, would mean that we were seen in the Middle East as suppressing the Palestinians. Israel ignored that. They expanded West Bank settlements. When the first Bush administration tried to stop it, Bill Clinton ran in 1992 accusing Bush 41 of being an anti-Semite. And ever since then, when that harsh accusatory framework came down on James Baker and George Bush and Brent Scowcroft as anti-Semites, American presidents, with some exceptions, have been petrified of opposing Israel and the Israel lobby. They can remove members of Congress like no other lobby can. They've proven that repeatedly. Sure. And so it's not just that they're our ally and we help them when it's our interest.
That's effectively what he's trying to approve with the subservience to the Israeli lobby. You don't have to like his politics, but Thomas Massie, let's not forget, didn't just lose $35 million was not spent on that primary. A primary in a small little district in Kentucky for no reason. No. They spent that lobby because they basically effectively said, we cannot have anybody going after the Epstein regime, putting out the Epstein files, and defying and calling out the Israeli lobby and calling out Israel itself, and be defiant in doing so. That's why $35 million was dropped by 3 billionaires for the most part. One of them was in the Epstein files, to remove Thomas Massie. I'm actually looking forward to the day when he reads out all the names of the people in the Epstein files, because I think he said he's going to do it. He said he's going to do it before he leaves office. He needs to do it. Now, back to this.
We help them even when it's contrary to our interests, as we're doing right now with this war.
Well, yeah, you just kind of danced around it. You didn't actually say what characterizes Trump's behavior as subservient.
When you take, let me just quickly,
let me say one thing.
You want to know?
No, but let me say one thing. Okay. I actually do relate a lot to what you're saying, being called an anti-Semite. I'm running for Congress in Hollywood, Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena. And the thing that I got labeled for criticizing Israel, the Israeli lobby, and the government of Israel, to be fair, I got immediately labeled an anti-Semite by my own party, by the Republican Party. But I want to understand what makes Trump subservient, what makes the influence go beyond just influence and makes him have a greater allegiance to Israel than America. You haven't answered that.
By subservience, I mean when you take interests that are in the interest of another country over your own. And subservient, are you saying why is he subservient?
No,
like what
I'm trying to
causes that?
understand
Or what do you
logic,
mean by subservient?
what you've described so far is influence, which we all agree there's a foreign influence in our government that's outsized, and it very often drives our politics and our politicians to go beyond the interests of Americans. But that doesn't mean that they have a greater allegiance to a foreign government than they do to their own people.
I'm not saying President Trump has a greater allegiance to Israel than he does to the United States. I'm saying that the lobby that influences him, that he's afraid of, that he takes direction from, their goal is to make sure that American politicians are serving the interest of Israel even above the interest of the United States, even when it undermines or subverts the interest of the United States. That is the point of the Israel lobby, is to make sure that Israeli interests
you're talking
stay
about the
above.
Israel lobby.
All right, we got to pause there. You've been voted out.
Good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
God.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm
God.
Eden. Okay, so when you're talking about the Israel lobby, are you referring mostly to AIPAC? Or?
No, I mean, I'm certainly referring to AIPAC, but there's a gigantic number of other organs and arms of the Israeli lobby.
Right, and can you give examples where they're going outside of legal bounds?
No, I don't. My accusation is not that AIPAC acts illegally. I do think there's a good argument that they ought to be registered under FARA, but under our laws, they're not required
Okay, so
to.
with the FARA argument, you do know that it's American Jewish interests, right? That the lobby AIPAC is for American Jewish interests. So
AIPAC
to
takes
say that it's
direction
going
from the Israeli government. They're over there all the time. I understand the argument that these are Americans, but but a lot of Americans have to register under FARA if they're taking directions from or acting on behalf of a foreign government, which I think AIPAC is. But I'm not arguing that AIPAC is criminal.
Right.
That's a different debate. We can have that, but that's not the relevant question.
So I hear this argument a lot. And what I always go back to is America is voting with their dollar. Okay. So yeah, there is influence, right? There is Jewish American influence, but it is because the American people want it. That's why AIPAC is so successful.
Okay, I'm glad you raised that, because actually what AIPAC does when they want to remove a member from Congress, like they did with Cori Bush or Jamal Bowman in the last cycle, like they've done with tons of them, is they spend insane amounts of money for a congressional district, like they're doing with Thomas Massie now. They don't go in and advertise and say this member of Congress isn't sufficiently supportive of Israel or is too anti-Israel, because they know that's a failing issue, because Americans don't care about foreign countries. They care about their own country like every other country.
Right.
What they do is they go in and they deceive people by saying our ads are really about the fact that he doesn't tend to potholes, or he has bad constituent services, or he doesn't support healthcare, or he's too
and are
this
they
or he's
lying
too
about
that.
Are they lying about it?
No, it's just
so they're choosing to focus on other issues. And these are issues that Americans
it's exactly
care
the
about.
opposite of what you said, which
Okay,
is that they go in and the reason why you said the reason why people vote for the.
She's trying to divert from the fact of what he's saying. You're trying to go other areas.
For AIPAC's candidates is because they want support for Israel.
Well, you
but
know what? If they
AIPAC
raise
doesn't
the
think that
pothole
AIPAC
issue
doesn't-
and this candidate says that they're going to.
But that's not AIPAC's concern. It's a totally stealth and
AIPAC
deceitful
can
campaign.
put their money wherever they want.
I know. I'm not arguing that AIPAC is a criminal organization. I'm not arguing that they should be in prison.
Okay.
I'm arguing that the
So you're
point of
kinda
the
saying there's
Israel
some
lobby is to
nefarious
keep. Yes, it
things
is
going on.
nefarious, because the point is to in the shadows hide their
And
agenda,
see,
which
this
is to
is super
keep American
convenient.
politician subservient and captive
Okay,
to the
yeah.
interests
So
of
you
a foreign
always have
country.
to always have to revert to the conspiracy idea.
It's not a conspiracy.
It
It's
is a
done right out in the
conspiracy
open.
idea.
I don't think it's
you
a conspiracy.
You always have to go back to the conspiracy
I don't think
idea
it's a
because
conspiracy.
you can't
It's
deal with
in
the
the
fact
open.
that American Jews are voting for this.
American Jews
American
are.
Jews
Do you know
are
what?
But they're also taking orders from a foreign government. That's the whole point of the FARA Act. They're taking orders from a foreign government. They're taking orders and being influenced by a foreign government. Oh my God.
putting their
Percentage of
money
America. Do you know what
where they
percentage
want
of
it to
America?
go.
Yes, and you're free to do that. You're free to donate to whatever campaign you want. So am
you
I.
can
There's
make
no
an argument that
there.
we can reform the lobby system. Okay, that's fair. But Americans are voting with their dollar,
The
and this
difference
is the way that
between
they're
the
voting.
pharma lobby and the Wall Street lobby and the Silicon Valley lobby, which are gigantic,
Which are pouring
is
a
that
lot
they're
more
at
money
least
in, so
American
that's a huge
companies.
difference.
There's no other lobby that represents a foreign country that has even 1/100th of the impact that
First
the
of all,
Israel lobby has, and that's what makes it so
representing
different
an ally,
and so dangerous.
An ally. Jewish Americans have
Okay, it doesn't matter if it's an ally or not. It's still a foreign government. Foreign government. Foreign government. Foreign government. That's the whole point. Foreign government. Oh my God.
vested interest in Israel. Okay, they're also
Why?
our ally.
What do you mean? Why do
well,
they have
a lot
that?
of some don't. Like you, right? You're Jewish.
Yeah, I don't- yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like you. So some do, some don't. Okay.
Right.
If some do, they can vote with their dollar. They're already our
So you're
allies.
saying a
so
lot
what's
of
wrong
Jews
with
have
that?
a vested interest in a foreign country?
Yes.
In how do they? President Trump said about Miriam Adelson, for example, who's a citizen of Israel and the United States, that he believes she has a greater loyalty to Israel. She would choose Israel when the two are in conflict. Would that be
And
your
that's a
choice
problem.
as well?
And I've heard other people say they have different they care more about other countries they're born in as well.
Right,
So,
but it's
like,
kind of a problem that
I don't
the
see
single
point.
richest
we can
and
police
most
that. We can put in legislation
Israeli
to
American
stop
is
that.
somebody who's
point,
in the White House all the time. According to President Trump, has more loyalty to a foreign country than she does to the
All
United
right,
States.
so
That's
kick
a pretty
her out.
gigantic
What-
problem.
so what?
Kick her out. President Trump has her in the White House every other week because of
Okay,
the
well,
massive
she's not
amount of
doing
money
anything
that she-
illegal. So
that's
what's
why-
the problem? You have a problem with the motivation.
A lot of
okay,
things
so
aren't
we can't
illegal
just
that you can
police
still
everybody's
criticize.
motivations.
There are a lot of things that aren't illegal that still should be criticized and dragged out into the sunlight.
So let's
and the
criticize
influence
it.
of
But the whole
that I am.
is this whole AIPAC is this nefarious grand puppet master thing is absolutely debunkable. Okay, AIPAC sometimes does not win. I mean, we saw with in 2015 the JCPOA the situation.
I agree. They don't always get their way. They get their way almost all the time, most of the time, and that is a huge
again,
problem.
America's voting with their dollar. So,
okay.
All right, we got to pause there. We are out of time. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Want to be in a Jubilee video? We are always on the lookout for smart, engaged, and passionate people who are ready to join the conversation. Go to jubileemedia.com/casting for an up-to-date list of episodes currently casting. If you don't see something that's right for you, you can tell us about yourself by filling out our quick open casting application using the link in the description.
My next surrounding claim is the Trump administration has been considerably more corrupt than the Biden administration.
All right, if you'd like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
This is going to be so much fun. Like, this is going to be so much fun. Oh, my God.
Hello.
Hello there. There's so many things I could talk for hours on end. Even giving Kamala Harris an appointation of, I don't know if that's a word, but appointing her as the next candidate because he wasn't able to run. You're America first, right? That's what you're saying, right? Okay, so do you agree that it was corrupt?
So I'm somebody who believes that there was a lot of corruption in the Biden administration. My claim is not that the Biden administration was free of meaningful corruption. It had a lot of corruption. My claim is that the Trump administration has a lot more corruption. And we can talk about what those financial deals are.
Please.
Okay, well, I'll just give you one example.
Okay.
Jared Kushner, who's now running Middle East foreign policy and negotiating Middle East policy for Donald Trump, his son-in-law.
And doing a great job.
Right before he was...
Oh, my God. First of all, he's not even a person, he's not even a congressman or anything like that. Yo, this is wild. What? Oh, my God.
Put into that position just a year or so earlier, he created a hedge fund, and the number one investor were the Saudis, who invested $2 billion in Jared Kushner's fund, both as a reward for a job well done, for the service that the Trump administration in the first term gave to the Saudis, and also for making sure that the Saudis' interests are protected. It's basically a bribe directly to the Trump family. The Trump family created a crypto company called World Liberty Financial, 49% of which is now owned by the United Arab Emirates. We've heard so much here about how important the UAE is, about how Saudi Arabia is, and they're funneling gigantic sums of money directly to the Trump family.
Okay, but look at, I just want to interject a little bit, because look at Nancy Pelosi, look at all the inside trading.
I agree with you completely.
It goes way beyond that.
No, that's
so
not
both
way beyond
sides
that.
do it. Is it right? No, but Biden administration and all of the people on the Democratic side are doing it so much worse on such a larger scale. It's affecting America.
I worked a lot on the Hunter Biden corruption case, principally that he got $50,000 a month from a company in Ukraine called Burisma when Vice President Biden had immense influence in Ukraine.
It was way more than that.
And as Andy McCarthy said, who's a longtime Republican conservative prosecutor, in order to talk about or compare the corruption, similar corruption by the Trump sons and by Jared Kushner, you have to add 2 zeros to the amounts. And I think that's what the concern is.
Biden was so corrupt.
We gotta move on. Thank you. You've been voted
It was
out.
actually fun doing this.
She's wrong, but I tell you this much. Compared to everybody else beforehand in this Jubilee debate, she was the guy running for Congress. Those two were the most tame and polished. And not just polished, but like there was a good back and forth without trying to interrupt somebody. All of them were just hyenas, like, as soon as he says something that's even remotely true, like curse the cowardly dog.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I think that we can see corruption pretty, well in the Biden administration. You've got Joe Biden's drug addict son that got convicted on gun charges, on tax evasion charges, and Joe Biden used his pardoning power to erase that completely. But I think that we can see corruption in its finest when you have a senile old man like Joe Biden who is getting propped up and put.
And Donald Trump ain't senile himself. Listen, Joe Biden was a zombie. He wasn't running anything. He was a zombie, and he was corrupt. There is no mistake. Everything he's saying is true. But that's not the point. He's saying the Trump administration is more corrupt than the Biden administration, which is corruption unfolded.
And is basically a puppet for the Democratic Party.
So I think when we talk about corruption, we're not talking generally about just bad acts or malfeasance in government. We're generally talking about the influence of ill-gotten gains or malicious motives or self-interested motives in government decisions. What made the Hunter Biden case corrupt was not his drug addiction or his tax evasion. Those were personal bad acts on his part.
Well, it's a bad use of it's a bad use of the pardoning power for Joe Biden to do that. It shows clear corruption.
Yeah, I mean, President Trump has pardoned dozens of people, all of whom are very wealthy, who stole money from investors, who have friends that are very close to the Trump administration. There's a whole pardon industry surrounding the Trump White House where if you have enough money and you can pay $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million to close Trump associates, you will get a pardon. But the problem with the Hunter Biden case, what made that so concerning was that he was monetizing the influence that Joe Biden had in Ukraine in order to get all kinds of money for himself. This is what Donald Trump Jr. is doing, Eric Trump is doing, and especially Jared Kushner is doing in the region of the world that President Trump has been most influential, which is the Persian Gulf, where there's the most amount of money. Billions of dollars have flowed to the Trump family through properties and entities that they've created, including World Liberty Financial, including Jared Kushner's. Does that not concern you the way it did with Hunter Biden?
I'm not.
Talking about billions of dollars.
Right. Well, I mean, the HOC did report that the Biden family received $24 to $27 million.
I'm talking about billions. Again,
yeah, we're talking about billions. So basically, you're just basically saying that Trump was better at being.
No, I'm saying it's great. It's more damaging corruption.
So you're criticizing Trump for being more of a businessman, a better businessman than Joe Biden.
It's like saying, oh, that guy stole a Milky Way and that guy defrauded billions of dollars from old ladies. So this guy's better than this one at being a crook, being a corrupt criminal. Yes, I do think Trump's better at that.
Yeah, I mean, corruption is similar as far as how it's monetized.
We got to pause there. Flags are up. You've been voted out.
Good, thanks. Good, Lee.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. So you're saying that Trump is more corrupt than Joe Biden? That's what you're saying?
I'm saying the Trump administration has a lot more corruption than the Biden administration has.
Okay, I'm guessing by what, the war or his kids or what?
I think we're focused primarily on financial corruption. I mean, you can talk about other kinds of corruption as well, but the concern about Hunter Biden and the money that he made off his father's influence, which I found extremely objectionable and still do, pales in comparison to the extreme fortune that the Trump kids and Jared Kushner are building off of Trump's power.
Okay, well, Trump is not corrupted at all. We're not in a war as well. Sorry, there's so many. I wanted to.
This guy is completely brain rotted. We're not in a war. We're not in a war, sir. We're not enacting a naval blockade of Cuba for no damn good reason. We didn't kidnap Nicolas Maduro and made Delcy Rodriguez very traitorous to Venezuela. We're not doing that? Good grief, God.
Answer you on so many things, but you're not being specific about how it's Trump, his administration corrupted. What exactly? Because his kids aren't the administration. It's just Donald Trump. So how is...
Well, Hunter Biden wasn't the Biden administration, but it was just the president's
I don't care about Joe Biden. I want to go on. You're saying Trump, okay? Trump administration. How is he more corrupt?
It's a comparison between the Biden administration.
But the most corrupt thing that Trump has done.
I'll tell you what there's a lot of things, but the main one is they created a company shortly before Trump's inauguration that's a crypto company called World Financial Liberty.
No, that's not.
If you want me to explain, I can explain it, but you got to let me explain.
So you're saying that he's corrupt that in a way that he can get in trouble, just like Hunter Biden got in trouble.
There's the World Financial Liberty, which is the crypto company that the UAE has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in, that has 49% ownership, that paid a huge amount of money to enrich President President Trump. On top of that, he created this coin, the Trump coin, where any foreign influencers or foreign power can pour as much money as they want into Donald Trump's pocket and have done so.
Are you
And of
aware that
course
Trump?
he's doing
Are
it
you
through
aware
his
that Trump
children.
doesn't take? It never has took his presidential checks. Are you aware
That's
that he's given up
$400,000.
all?
Yes, that's
Oh,
congratulations.
that's just $400,000. That's it. Okay. Are you aware that he's given up all his everything he owns? His
Trump's
motels,
an
his hotels,
infinitely
everything.
richer man now than he was when he saw
Are
the
you
presidency
jealous
in
of that, or
2016.
like because he's president? Is that jealousy or something? Are you jealous of that? That he knows what to do with his money and he knows how to do it.
Were you a critic of Joe
He
Biden?
is not
Were you a
corrupt.
critic of
He's
Joe
not even
Biden?
close to corrupt. And you know what? You want to know what you're doing right now? You're saying that I saw you corrected yourself. You said you were saying Trump to the other people, but now you're talking to me and you said Trump administration. So
No,
Trump-
the formulation is the Trump administration has been significantly more corrupt than the Biden
Yes,
administration.
but
That's
you
what
were
it's been
saying
from the
Trump,
start.
and then you were talking to them saying Trump, and now you're saying Trump administration.
I'm saying both. I explained to you how
Okay.
Donald Trump was corrupt.
Okay, so Trump is not the Trump is Trump. So you think he's in control of whatever happens on something else, or his
The company
kids
that
do?
received hundreds of billions of dollars from the UAE is Trump's
and that's
company.
all Trump's fault.
Trump's company. He created the company with Steve Witkoff, with Steve
Is that
Witkoff's
Trump's
kids.
fault? Yes or no?
Yes, of course it's Trump's fault. He was the
How?
one who created the company.
How is it Trump's fault?
Because Trump is the one who received all that money and now is in bed with the UAE. It's exactly the kind of quid
So
pro
are you
quo
saying
that
he
we
should
Trump
gotta
be
pause
arrested
there.
right
We
now?
gotta pause
You're
there.
saying he should be arrested?
I don't think. I
So
think
how's
it should
that
be.
corruption?
We got pause there. You've been voted out.
Yo.
Hey,
good to see you
good
again.
to see you again. How are you?
Good. As I've been listening, I've been writing down all the areas of corruption that I could think of from the Biden administration. And so what you have to prove is that what Trump has done is greater than all of
considerably
this.
more, exactly.
Right. So you have Biden's auto pen, where he's just signing legislation without actually not knowing what it actually is.
How do you know what
you
he
have?
knew? How do
You
you-
have
let's
OSHA.
go
Well, let me.
through this.
Well,
You wanna-
hold on. Let
we-
me list
okay,
because
go ahead.
you
Go
have
ahead.
you have OSHA, where he tried to cram down vaccine mandates on working Americans unconstitutionally. You have $400 billion in COVID fraud during the Biden administration. You have Hunter Biden, and I know you agree with that, so don't need to go into that too much. You have millions of illegal immigrants entering in the country and changing the voter base. You have free college. He tried to do that unconstitutionally. You have Burisma. He went after Trump illegally through different court cases. And you'll love this one. You know how much, you know who is the greatest senator who have taken the most amount of money from AIPAC? Joe Biden.
Yeah, of course. Joe Biden's a fanatical. I know that.
$4.2
Of
million.
course. No, Trump has gotten more from the pro-Israel lobby, but Joe Biden has spent his entire career in captivity to Israel. So
your burden is to prove that everything
Okay.
that Trump has done outweighs all those.
Have
other
you?
things.
Heard, I think there's an issue with corruption and what that means and what that includes and doesn't. But it's not every bad act. But let's just leave that to the side for a minute.
Okay.
You sat here and you've heard me list all of the different ways in which Trump, his sons, and Jared Kushner have built a multi-billion-dollar personal fortune by trading on their power. You've heard all those. I'm not saying you agree with them, but you've heard.
And by the way, most of them, especially Jared Kushner, doesn't have security clearance.
Me outline those, correct?
I've heard you outline.
Do you
them, yeah.
agree or disagree with the claims that I've made about those?
Well, what I want to get to is
No, I know,
your
but we're
actual
building
claim.
we're building a comparison. So I heard you. What you put in
So
the
why
Biden
don't you
column,
go ahead
so-
and list
but
all the multiple things, right?
because I have.
Because you
I have. So I'm
Burisma,
asking
you know
you.
the corruption there, right? Okay, so then now go ahead and list all the other things.
I
that
just
Biden
I
has
just
done.
got done saying to you that while you were sitting behind me for the last 15 minutes, I've listed 6 or 7 different ways in which Trump, his sons, and Jared Kushner have built a multi-billion-dollar personal fortune by trading on his personal power. I don't think there are things that compare in the Biden administration to the level of personal corruption. And what I'm asking you is whether you
don't think going after your political opponents
I'm asking you is whether you
illegally,
think
you don't think
Trump
that
has gone after his
is
political
damaging
opponents as
to-
well. He's tried to indict James Comey. He tried to indict Letitia James, and even the grand juries threw them out. But I'm asking you about the examples that I listed. Do you think I've accurately described the personal corruption of
I'm
Trump,
saying
his
even
son?
if I grant your
no, but
premise,
I want
even
I
if
don't want
I
you to
grant
grant
that-
it. I want to know if you think I've accurately described it because
Because
we're talking
even
about
if I
billions
grant-
of dollars in personal wealth.
Glenn.
And if you think the corruption is worse than the Biden administration, tell me the billions of with all of the
Glenn, I
examples
want you
named.
to defend your
do you
claim.
think Do you
I
think
want you
that,
to defend the claim that you're making.
I'm defending it. So Jared Kushner created a vulture capital fund, an investment fund, in which the primary investors were the Saudis, who invested $2 billion into Jared Kushner's personal fund. The Emiratis have invested hundreds of millions of dollars as well. Donald Trump, his sons, Steve Witkoff, and his sons created a crypto company that the UAE has devoted hundreds of billions of dollars to and then bought a 49% stake share in. The Qataris have done the same. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump just created a new drone company that they're now selling to the Pentagon and getting contracts from the Pentagon that will further personally enrich the Trump family. We're talking about a level, billions and billions of dollars in personal wealth that did not exist before Donald Trump entered the presidency that now exists in his family by virtue of these deals with the exact countries on which he wields the most influence.
There's 2 points I want to make. Okay, so first off, right, even let's say I grant all of that. Let's say I grant
because
all
it's
of
true.
That. No, let's say I grant all of that. That still doesn't prove your claim. I brought up a whole list of things that Biden
How much
has
money
done that's
did
corrupt.
Biden
Second,
and his family make?
You're trying to make Biden did this for millions, and he's corrupt as fuck. Nobody's given a pass to that, but millions compared to billions? Wow. Millions compared to billions. Oh my Lord.
Hey,
second point?
but how much?
Can I make my second point?
Yeah,
Can
go
I make
ahead,
my
go
second
ahead.
point? Okay. Are American citizens not free to pursue business activities outside political office?
No, they're
Can
not.
Obama
They're
not
not.
pursue a
They're
Netflix
conflicts of
deal?
interest.
Can Obama not pursue book deals
Once
with
he's
other
out of
people?
office, he can. Once he served 2 terms and is out of office. Was
Trump in office when this was happening?
Yes, the World Financial Liberty Company was created in the transition after he won the election and before he was inaugurated. 4 days before he was inaugurated, he created that crypto company into which hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign money have flowed, enriching the Trump family. I don't think you know about these transactions. I don't think there's things people have brought up that I don't know about. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I think you ought to go and look at those transactions.
You're just not defending your claim. Again, even if I would grant
I'll
you
leave
all
it to
of
the
that,
audience to decide if I've defended
even if
the
I
claim.
grant you all of that, you
we
still
gotta
have not
pause
addressed
there.
anything about Biden. You
We gotta
refuse
pause
to do
there.
so.
All right.
Good to meet you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So you mentioned Donald Trump's crypto endeavors. So could you tell me a little bit more about that and how that makes him corrupt?
Sure. There's actually a constitutional prohibition on political leaders accepting or receiving gifts from foreign countries because of the obvious and extreme potential to corrupt U.S. foreign policy, because foreign governments and foreign leaders can pay money into the pockets of American officials in exchange for favors. So Trump, by creating this World Financial Liberty crypto company, along with Steve Witkoff and his kids, made it so that not just it's a potential that foreign governments and foreign leaders can invest huge amounts of money that go into Trump's pocket, but that was what the company was created for, and that's exactly what has happened.
You mentioned that Trump was in violation of some type of federal law that restricted presidents from doing business.
It's a
with foreign countries,
constitutional
right?
amendment.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that you did not make that claim. You didn't say Trump was in violation of a constitutional amendment to try to protect the interests of the American people. You said that he was corrupt. So you haven't shown any type of reason of why Trump is corrupt.
No,
You just say that
the constitutional
Trump has a
amendment is
business.
called the.
Does Trump own it, or does his family own it? 'Cause that's a big difference.
He owned it when he founded it, and once he was inaugurated president,
Yeah,
he
so he
transferred
followed
ownership
the
to
rules.
his
He
sons.
followed the rules of the amendment.
I'm not saying,
right?
but
He followed the rules of the amendment, and also you have no evidence of him
Joe
being corrupt.
Joe Biden also was not convicted for any matters relating to Hunter Biden's business activities, even though most people in this room, as I've heard, and I would agree, think those activities were corrupt. There are lots of political corruption
So
that
who
don't
should be
end up
indicted?
crossing the political line of corruption. Corruption is when you do things that look and have the potential to be untoward because the way you're monetizing and exploiting your political power, which is supposed to be in service of the public, for your own personal wealth.
But how do you have
instead.
proof that he did this out of the interest of the American public?
What we know,
So,
what
and
we
also,
know,
who should be indicted?
What we know,
Somebody should be indicted, right? If there's corruption, who should it be? Donald Trump Jr., Eric
there's
Trump,
a lot.
Donald Trump,
There's
who
a
should
lot.
it be?
There's a lot of corruption. I think it's corrupt when the pharmaceutical lobby goes to members of Congress and says, "Well, donate $100,000 to your political campaign or spend $100,000 on your
I would
election
agree,
in
that's
exchange for
corruption.
the." But
Yeah,
it's not
I would agree,
criminal.
that's
But
corruption.
it's not criminal. It's not criminal to do. And so there's all kinds of corruption, unfortunately, in our system that has been legalized.
Okay, so we both agree Trump didn't break the rules. He gave the company to his sons,
no,
right?
I think we need
that's what he did with his,
we need an investigation to see exactly what happened. But based on what we know in the public, just the mere fact that Trump is creating a company,
Do you think
4
Trump is trying
days
to profit?
before he's been massively enriched. He's been massively enriched by these transactions.
During his first presidency, his net worth actually went lower than when he originally was inaugurated in 2017.
It's like about 3 times greater now than it was when he sought the presidency in 2016.
Yeah, because the inflation happens, time goes on, and also Biden was president.
Because he got billions of dollars from the Persian Gulf dictatorships with whom he's closest in his presidency.
During his term from January 2017 to January 2021, Donald Trump's net worth went down. During the Biden administration, his net worth went up, most likely because of inflation.
So what about this ongoing term? You're just going to ignore that? You're just going to ignore that? See, this is so fucking selective.
Democrats were rampant with printing money.
Serious question. Just imagine a Democratic president that's not Donald Trump. 4 days before they're inaugurated as president, they create a new company, and into that company flows hundreds of billions of dollars or billions of dollars from the very countries that'll be most affected by that president's foreign policy. That wouldn't concern you at all? You don't think there's anything
I could have a concern
disconcerting
of it. There
about
could be a
that?
suspicion, but I'm not going to make a claim that he's corrupt, and that's the claim that you're making right now.
Because everything that Trump has done since then has benefited those very countries that enriched his family so greatly with billions of dollars in personal wealth
So every
to
single
his
thing that he's
family.
done.
And not only that, but the Saudi
Do
investment
you
in
think the
Jared
Iran
Kushner's
war
fund,
negatively affects the
Saudi,
UAE? But the Iran war negatively affects the UAE, right? And Donald Trump somewhat
the
caused the
UAE is
Iran war.
thrilled with the Iran war.
Really?
As people said
Really?
earlier,
they're having
the
shit,
UAE,
they're having shit
the
fall on
UAE
their cities.
The UAE
they're having shrapnel fall on their
the
on
UAE
Dubai?
hates
Really?
Iran. They're encouraging Iran. They're encouraging Trump to continue. They want regime change. They despise
agree they
Iran.
hate Iran,
So do the Saudis. This war is done. Trump would never have done this war without those very countries with whom he's closest, which coincidentally has also poured billions of dollars in personal wealth into his family. If that isn't corruption, I don't know what is. And all of you thought that what Hunter Biden did, which was on a much, much smaller scale, you all thought that was corruption. I did too, because I'm actually consistent. I don't change my principles based on which party is in office. It's the same exact transaction, only as Andy McCarthy said, the longtime conservative prosecutor, in order to compare Trump's kids and Biden's kids, you have to add 2 zeros to what Trump's kids are doing.
Bro.
All right, let's pause there. We've run out.
He's not saying that they didn't engage in corruption. He's saying it's worse when the level of it is more severe. You have to add 2 zeros to what effectively Joe Biden and Hunter Biden did. You have to add 2 zeros in order to get to that level of what Trump's doing. That's what he's saying, but they don't want. It's craziness, bro.
Time. Thank you.
Good talk to you. My final surrounding claim is bombing Iran is not in the American people's interest.
Damn sure ain't.
If you'd like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey, how are you?
Hi,
Good to
Josh.
meet you.
Good to meet you. So I think in talking about this conflict or war, the things that we have to establish is what each side has lost. So in my estimation, and you're welcome to jump in, I think the U.S. has lost about $40 to $50 billion. We've lost about 14 servicemen, which I think is the greatest loss that we've had. And
Why? That should be the number one question. Why? I already got an idea where he's going to go with this one.
Beyond that, we haven't lost a lot. What Iran has lost is their entire military, their entire navy. They have lost half their leaders and a lot of money along the way. So in my estimation, we're winning this war. And the reason why we're fighting the war is because 1,000 Americans have been killed by Iran in the last 50 years.
Have they lost? Has Iran, you mentioned the losses, has Iran lost any civilians?
Yeah, I'm sure. That's how war works.
Like, for example, that's how war works. Like on the first day, we vaporized 170.
So it's okay to lose civilians. You're just trying to rationalize losing civilians. Because what he's also trying to rationalize is that the U.S. government, in general, has been targeting civilians in this war. They've been targeting civilians. Targeting civilians. He's trying to rationalize that. That is fucking sick. and you want to call yourself a fucking patriot for America, and you want to rationalize that shit, fuck you.
Young Iranian schoolgirls
I think
by
it's
bombing an elementary school.
Yeah, I think
does that weigh into the calculation at all?
I think it's very clear that every single war there are civilian casualties. There's
no,
never
I
been
know,
a war
but
in
that
history.
you have to weigh that. That's one reason why we shouldn't fight wars, right? Because innocent people die in them. Life created by God is extinguished.
I would say if you're trying to be America first, which is the claim that you made, you should prioritize your own citizens and servicemen over the people of other countries.
Okay, because I was hearing a lot, probably more than any other argument, before the start of the war, that the reason we had to go to war was because the Iranian people were massacring their own citizens, and we had to go and protect them and liberate them and bring them freedom and democracy. Is that a goal of the war? And how does that weigh in with America first?
So absolutely, that's part of the war. The reason why Donald Trump chose to take the time that he did to go into Iran is because of the fact that the people were ready to stand behind the U.S. government in that.
So regime change is part of the war?
I think regime change would be the best case scenario of the war, yes.
No, but is it a goal of the war? Like when you start a war, you have goals. Like you said, you gave a reason for the goal, which is that like they've done bad things in the past.
I have no problem admitting that it's one of the goals. I have no problem admitting that is one of the goals.
Is that war, has that goal been
fulfilled? We are
fulfilled?
currently 5 weeks into the war.
No, I know. I'm asking.
It has not.
It's
in 5
we're actually
weeks,
in our
no.
sixth full week, but has
in
that
6
war?
weeks? No, that has not been accomplished yet.
Do you think that we're on our way to accomplishing the fall of the Iranian regime, and that the American government considers that to be one of the ongoing goals?
I think it is very possible that could happen. I think it is the least likely goal. I still think that the U.S. should pursue that goal.
But if we end up in this war, we're currently in a 2-week ceasefire.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He is completely brainwashed. Regime change? Does he not know the history of this country and its murderous history of regime change and when it is done? And he's saying it should be done with that, with false information? Oh my God.
Where there is no regime change, where the current Iranian power structure, the Revolutionary Guard, everyone else continues to govern Iran, will that have been a successful war goal?
Absolutely. We've lost 14 servicemen, bless their hearts, but they chose to do that, and they were very brave in doing so. We have decimated their military.
I understand the other, but I just want to focus on this war goal. Because I'm just confused because you were saying
there
yes,
are tiers of goals for sure.
You were saying
if we can achieve 4 or 5, fantastic.
But I think what you said is so important, which is we're America first, right? That's the movement that I thought that Donald Trump was creating that made me interested in the movement.
Yeah.
And so you began by saying, oh, it really doesn't matter about these 170 schoolgirls because we have to focus on American lives, not Iranian. No, that is what you said.
No, I'm saying that is every single war. We do this moral grandstanding where we say, oh, these civilians died. I do think it's horrible that civilians died. But I absolutely do, but I think it's worse for the American government to prioritize anybody outside of America. We've had over 1,000 people killed by the Iranian regime.
How does
over the
bringing
last
freedom
50
and
years.
democracy to the Iranian people help the American people whose interests you say should be first?
Because the current regime has killed over 1,000 Americans. If it's a different regime,
So intervening in that regime's business is helping. How? Engaging in a conflict with another state, another country is helping. How? Helps how? Being a world police helps how? Oh my God.
Hopefully that will not be the case.
But what if they're as tyrannical but pro-American? Is that fine?
What if, like we could say what if about
no, because I think that's so, because we prop up dictatorships throughout that region. We don't care about democracy or bringing freedom to people.
Sure
We prop up the worst, most savage dictatorships in Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Bahrain because we don't care about liberating people around the world. So I just want to get a goal a sense from you for what is your goal? Is it a pro-American dictatorship like we installed previously?
It's very clear that the goal is if there is a regime change, it will be by the Iranian people. That's why Trump chose to do it.
What?
when he did it.
Is it
because of
our
the fact the
goal?
American-
Is it a war goal?
That is a goal, but there are tiers of goals, obviously.
Okay, so if we don't end up changing the government, will that be a goal that is failed or
Sure.
unfulfilled?
Yeah, I've got no problem saying that.
Okay.
we
If
got
we
to pause
achieve
there.
4 out of 5, no
we
problem.
got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Good to talk to you.
It's nice to talk to you.
First of all, I was flabbergasted to find out you're Jewish.
Surprise.
Surprise. Why does Iran need a 60% enriched uranium for?
Iran never had 60% enriched uranium when the Iran deal was in place, and there were IAEA inspectors all throughout those Iranian facilities. When President Trump nullified the deal, destroying the obligation of Iran to have inspectors and 24-hour surveillance, they decided that they needed protection because now they no longer had a deal in place. They knew they could be threatened by Israel or the United States at any time. And if I were the Iranian leadership, I think the one thing the Iranian leadership did that was probably their biggest mistake is that they didn't develop a nuclear weapon.
Jeez.
Because we've created a world in which we tell other countries, either you get nuclear weapons and we won't mess with you, like North Korea
So you're
or
looking for the
India,
North Korea.
Pakistan,
You're looking for the
or-
North Korea model. That's what
or
we're looking for.
I'm saying if I were Iran, or we tell the world, if you don't have nuclear weapons, we'll invade you and bomb you at any time.
Would
We'll-
Iran use a nuclear weapon if they had one?
No, why would they? There would be instant and immediate suicide.
Then you
and
have-
we're told that the Iranian
It's not
government.
suicide. It's martyrdom. To them, it's jihad.
Okay, then why aren't they launching all of their? I know.
Why are they not launching what?
Why aren't
Okay,
they
you know what?
launching?
First of all,
No,
hold on, hold on.
You got to
Define
you
Iran
have
to
to let
me.
me talk. You said why aren't they? Why are they that they want it suicide? Every single time that the Israelis and the United States have attacked Iran in the past 5 years, which is many, and even before that, they have been extremely restrained in their.
times have
They have been
Iran attacked?
extremely restrained in their. Okay.
Extremely restrained?
Yes.
How many times have you
Yes,
define
they've
Iran
been
to me?
extremely restrained.
Define who it is that is attacking. Is it Iran? Is it the proxies? Are the proxies part of Iran?
Iran has an internationally recognized government at the UN that's recognized by all countries around the world.
Great.
When I say Iran, that's who I mean.
That's
It's
what I
like Israel, the United States and Israel have proxies in Iran who are trying to overthrow the government, who were arming, who were training in order to overthrow the government. These peaceful protesters, a lot of them were actually armed and organized by
So
Israel
the
and the Mossad, as they
45,000 people
themselves
that
admit.
were killed were
What
killed
is the number
because-
30 or 40 or 45?
Well, from what we hear right now is 45,000. But here's what I tell you.
That's
that
not the number I hear.
Iran ran out of body bags. Okay, Iran ran out of body bags in those 2 days, and a country of 90 million people usually has around 30,000 body bags in case of emergency.
Let me
that's
ask you-
what we're looking at right
let me
now.
ask you- let me ask
We
you-
have the numbers. The numbers vary from all over the place.
Yeah, they
but
do.
Let me
they
ask,
do. No, I want to ask you. I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
If we here in the United States, we had an insurrectionary movement that was armed by China and Russia. And they admitted it openly. We've armed an insurrectionary movement inside the United States because we want them to overthrow the American government. And they were going and attacking police officers, killing police officers, attacking government buildings. How do you think we would treat those protesters?
I don't need to give you any kind of pie in the sky because you have Hamas and you have Hezbollah.
No, I'm talking about the United
and
States,
you have
this
Houthis.
country. I'm talking about our country.
Okay, do you not believe that these are attacking Americans as well?
The United States has been attacked many times.
So because
Can I answer your question?
Yes,
you asked me a question,
please.
just let me answer. The United States has been attacked many times over the last 30 years with horrific terrorist attacks. Do you know how many of them have come from Iranian terrorists or Shia terrorists? The answer is zero. Zero. We have never been attacked on American soil. What terrorist attack? What terrorist attack happened
What
from
terrorist
Iranian Shia terrorists? Which terrorist attack? We've had 9/11, the Boston Massacre, the Pulse shooting, Fort Hood, attempted bombing in Times Square. These were all Sunni terrorists from the governments that we love, like Saudi Arabia.
Sunnis are good and Shiites are
You know,
Sunnis are
there's
bad?
a difference between
Oh,
Iran and the Arab
completely
countries,
no.
right?
Completely.
And so
no.
I'm asking
They're
you about
actually
the
not-
violence from Iran. We're talking about the Iranian threat.
So
How
the-
many terrorist attacks have come from Iran or from Shia terrorists on the United States soil?
on,
Any?
on United States
Zero,
soil?
right?
That's not zero. No, it's
What
not
is
true
the
because
answer?
the proxies are considered part of Iran.
Which Iranian proxies have attacked the United States homeland? How many Americans have died and
Do you
when?
not consider the barracks over?
Well, we'll get to that. I'm talking about the homeland.
Oh, so it has to be in the homeland for.
Yeah, that's generally what governments are supposed
So
to
it needs
secure and
to be-
protect.
So if Americans are killed
Let's
abroad,
talk
that
about
doesn't
the home-
count?
let's talk about the homeland first.
Because you said America first, right? So American lives matter.
Right, we shouldn't have.
So if
reason we shouldn't have troops over protecting Israel is because we put them in harm's way. But I'm asking about the American homeland. Has Iran attacked the American homeland through asymmetrical bombing, through terrorist attack, through guerrilla
The fact that
warfare,
you-
anything? Why can't you just answer that?
Because the fact that you're blind to
Can you
it.
answer that? Just
Yes.
please answer that.
Yes.
When
Yes,
did that happen?
I don't have the exact
It
details
never
of
happened.
when it happened.
If
but it
anyone
happened.
has any examples of terrorist attacks that
Okay.
came from Iranian or Shia terrorists, please come up and tell me.
Iranians control the Middle East through their proxies, through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas.
And we control the Middle East through our proxy, which is Israel.
So Israel is a proxy of the U.S. right
Yes,
now?
absolutely.
Oh, so we're not an ally, we're a proxy.
Okay, we got to pause there.
Tell
We
me
gotta
why.
pause there.
Tell me why.
Pause,
Tell me
pause,
why
pause.
the ceasefire needs
Pause.
to include.
You've been voted out by the majority. We got to pause there.
Thanks.
Hey, how are you? Good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. I think bombing Iran is absolutely in the American people's interest because they've been a problem for 47 years. And I think what Trump is doing is he realized an opportune time where their economy, like the real, means absolutely nothing. Their terror proxies are no longer a deterrent. Hezbollah and Hamas have been absolutely decimated since October 7th. And in a desperate attempt, they murdered 30,000+ civilians in the streets. And they're
Okay, where's your proof of this? Where's the video proof? Where's any proof, material proof, that the Iranian government has murdered 30,000 of their own civilians? Where's this proof? Because it was 80,000, 30,000. What proof do you have? What material video proof? Something. Material proof do you have?
30,000+. According to hospital records, 32,000. And 60% uranium enrichment. So I think Trump is looking right now and saying, we don't know what the next administration is going to do. We could have Democrats that might unfreeze their assets again, go back into the JCPOA. This is an opportune time where they're like the weakest they're going to be in the whole existence. So like we should end this now.
Yeah, I think it's. I want to talk about that. I just want to ask you, and I'm not trying to be personal in any way, but I do think it's an interesting phenomenon that for centuries, when countries wanted to go to war and people said, "Yeah, let's go to war," the big test was, are you willing to risk your own life in the war that you think is so important to defend your country's interests? You seem like a young guy to me. Have you ever thought about going and fighting in this war that you're cheering on?
I mean, I've thought about joining the military before. I don't know about this war specifically, but that's what makes them heroes. Is they put themselves in dangerous situations.
Yeah, I'm asking that because, as I said earlier, we are a country that constantly fights wars. It's extremely aberrational for other countries on the planet, including very powerful ones like China, as I said before, that has grown so significantly because they know that war is not a way that you pretend you protect your national interests, but you undermine them. But we are so eager, so it's so easy for us to say, "Oh yeah, go fight that war, go blow up these people."
We're
go
a global
bomb these people.
superpower. Of course, we're dealing
China
with
is
stuff
a
all the
global
time.
superpower as well and doing infinitely better than the United States by so many metrics
about
because
that.
of the. Go ask Latin American and African countries with whom they're dealing more and who they prefer to deal with, China or the United States, and they will tell you that the United States is a bully country that runs the world through military force and China isn't. That's one of the problems that we have. But Iran has not attacked the United States, has no ability to attack the United States. A moral country only goes to war and blows up elementary schools if that country is actually attacking the United States. It's supposed to be a war of last resort. That is not the case here. We're blowing up their country.
She's like, oh, stop saying that. Oh, we don't care. That's not the point. That blonde lady shaking her head. She's just like convulsing when somebody's telling the truth. Oh my God.
We're killing their people. We're threatening civilizational annihilation.
You don't think Iran would...
Because Iran is not a threat to the United States.
Death to America, death to Israel, 60% uranium enrichment. There's never been a country ever that for civilian use.
You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm done. These people are yo. I have never seen someone deliver so many facts, be consistent, and anybody who's went up to debate this guy, except for like maybe one or two other people, have to come out and twist pretzel logic to defend their position, especially that one guy, that MAGA hat wearing guy, clearly was brainwashed. Oh, President Trump knows how to use his money better. That wasn't the point. He's saying he was corrupt. And the fact that you're trying to go after And Glenn Greenwald never once said that Biden family was not corrupt. He's saying that the Trump administration is more corrupt than the Biden administration when they're doing the same thing the Biden administration did, but you have to add 2 zeros. 2 zeros to do the same things they're doing. This is craziness. I'm going to find something else. Let's find something else. Let's find something else that doesn't kill brain cells listening to. Shout out to Glenn Greenwald. Shout out to Glenn Greenwald. What's out there? What else is out there? You know what? On a more positive note, on a much more positive note, let's end with this.
All right, guys, we got some breaking news here. Thomas Massie appeared on Meet the Press on Sunday morning and dropped a bombshell. Plus, I have an update about his potentials for 2028 that I think you may find rather interesting. Let's go ahead and get started with this interview with Meet the Press. Here is Thomas Massie here. They're starting off discussing the Iran war, and then they get into the race, and we'll get into this bombshell as well. Check this out.
President Trump posting on Saturday that an agreement with Iran has, quote, largely been negotiated. It's unclear what exactly has been agreed to, whether any deal would directly address the issue of the nuclear program, which of course is at the center of the war with Iran. So far, no final deal has been announced. But Congressman, would you support a short-term deal with Iran?
Well, I was the author of the first war powers resolution to get us out of Iran. My constituents are hurting. Gas is almost $5 a gallon. Diesel's almost $6 a gallon. And the farmers here in Kentucky can't afford the fertilizer to put on their fields. So heck yes, I would support it. We don't know what the terms of it are, but if Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz are crashing out last night, I'd say it's probably a pretty good deal.
All right. Well, let's turn to the big news. The reason why you're here, you did lose your bid for re-election.
Let's pause here for just a second. Remember what I was telling you about the fertilizer? Because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, oil is really expensive. A lot of these farmers do rely on fertilizer to grow their crops. Now, we can have discussions about if there should be other ways that people are looking into growing crops. But the reality is the majority of the farmers in the United States do rely on fertilizer, and that oil is used to produce fertilizer. So you're starting to see the impact on the farmers as well. Just want to remind everybody that 70% of farmers in the U.S. right now are struggling because of this. Now, let's get into the part here about the race.
This past Tuesday, after serving 7 terms in Congress, why do you think you lost this race, Congressman?
Well, listen, since the day I got to Washington, D.C., I've been doing this job like I thought people wanted you to do it. I read the bills. I didn't give my voting card to the speaker. I've never given it to a president. I don't even give my voting card to the Freedom Caucus. I vote for people over party. And, you know, that means 10% of the time I vote against the party. I've exposed a lot of things in Washington, D.C., the cronyism. I would say, you know, and also bankrupting our country, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. I point out how they're bankrupting our country and how these are all fake fights. They love to divide us. I think the biggest crime I committed against the swamp, Kristen, was showing the American people that somebody on the right could join somebody on the left and get something done, which is releasing the Epstein files that everybody knew needed to be done. That's probably the only bill that's passed Washington, D.C. in the last 10 years that lobbyists haven't written. It was written by me and Ro Khanna, and we used the pressure of the American people to cross the aisle and get things done. That's when they decided I had to be taken out, that I was becoming effective. So they wanted to eliminate me. And by the way, they couldn't buy my vote in 14 years. So they bought this seat. This was the most expensive race in congressional primary history. And at the end of this race, we were spending more per day, my side and the opposing side. We were spending more per day than most entire congressional races are spent for the entire cycle.
Wow. It's just a
So let me chime in here for just a second, because I think he said something there that's really important that we need to touch on, right? Thomas Massie has been in Congress for years. He's not a new Congress member. We all know he's against like all this extra spending. That is like his big thing, right? Like he wears like that debt clock. If I had a conversation with Thomas Massie, I would like to get into MMT with him and talk more about the myth of the debt ceiling, but that's another video. But what I will say is that Thomas Massie has been known for voting against the wars because that's more spending. So he's against the spending. The other thing here that he brings up, the Epstein point, is very important for people to take note, because like I said, he's always been known for saying, nope, we're voting against these wars because that's more government spending, taxpayer dollars, etc. They didn't come after him back then. They decided to come after him when he decided to work with Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene to present these Epstein files. That's when they came after Thomas Massie. So essentially, it's Donald Trump and the pro-Israel lobby trying to cover for and protect these predators, these people who trafficked underage girls.
Now he's saying that when that prompt came up to debate Glenn about is Donald Trump subservient to the Israeli lobby, and they're trying to take this argument, this is not what subservience means, and he laid it out, and they're like, oh my God, you trying to cherry pick him, but you couldn't cherry pick the facts that he was bringing out. Like, for example, this is one prime example of him being subservient. Why is there foreign influence and blatant foreign influence in this election here on behalf of Israel? Why? But yeah,
because those are their friends. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files more than anyone. Right? So that was the company that they kept, and they were trying to protect that. This is why I continue to tell you that all these attacks, the attacks right now that you're seeing from the U.S. government on Hassan Piker and Medea Benjamin, all this stuff is just for show. It is theater at this point in time. They're trying to crack down on anyone and everyone except for the people at the top, except for the wealthy, except for their friends, except for those who were hanging out with Epstein and were participating in those crimes. So no, they're not really trying to curb crime. They're still allowing crime from the elite to continue. The other thing that he said there that is incredibly important is the lobbying. We have lobbyists that have been writing legislation in Congress, and essentially the politicians are supposed to just pass these bills that lobbies want passed. This is why I say it's very rare that Congress will pass some type of bill that benefits the working class that does not have corporate interests attached to it. We go back under the Biden administration where Joe Manchin, caved and decided to vote for that climate bill. Well, you have to remember, even in that bill, there were benefits for fossil fuel companies. That's why he agreed to it. That's why he voted for it. So the first thing is first, there needs to be a law that is implemented that says lobbies and lobby interest groups cannot write legislation in Congress. That is what the Congress members are supposed to do. So essentially, you have a Congress that is bought by corporations and they're passing legislation that is written by corporations. And that's why they don't do anything for you. Let's continue on here.
Extraordinary to put it into that context. You reference the Epstein files, the fact that you and Congressman Khanna, who I'll be speaking to next, pushed to have those files released. You also broke with President Trump on other key issues, voting against the so-called big, beautiful bill. You're opposed to the Iran war, as you just stated. Congressman Massey, was it all worth it?
It was absolutely worth it for me. Now, I don't think it's going to be worth it for the party. Look, the left, some people on the left have Trump derangement syndrome. They call it TDS. But there's a growing number of people on the right who have a form of TDS called Trump disappointment syndrome. And I think what's going to happen to the party this fall is they've disenfranchised a large portion of that constituency that Trump assembled to get us in the White House, in the Senate majority, and in the House majority. They've alienated MAHA by kowtowing to the pesticide manufacturers and the pharmaceutical manufacturers. They've alienated the fiscal hawks by running Doge out of town. They've alienated the people who don't want to fight another war for other countries. And so I'm worried that in November, this is going to cost the party a lot. But for me, it was completely worth it. And I've got 7 more months to keep going against the grain, which means voting for principles and for people over party.
Let me ask you, big picture.
Yeah. So you see that? That's the problem. A lot of people are just doing what the party wants them to do. They don't have principles. In an ideal world, I would imagine, if Kentucky did not have closed primaries, in an ideal world, I would imagine Thomas Massey would probably be running as an independent in an ideal world, because he's not putting the party first. And this is the problem that I have with political parties. At the end of the day, the needs of the party come before principle and before the promises that you made to your constituents. Also, by the way, I think her name is Kristen. If this don't work out for Kristen and she decides to leave corporate media at some point, I could see her doing like a Oprah Winfrey like show. It's the way she interviews people. It's really interesting. She's like, would you do this again? Was it all worth it? It's the way she interviews people. I could see her having like an Oprah show.
Picture, because you have said that you vote with Republicans more than 90% of the time. You split when you think it better serves your constituents. One of your constituents told a local reporter this, quote, "I just got to the point where I couldn't support him anymore. I saw Massey as almost what they would popularly call a rhino, Republican in name only." What do you say to that voter and others of your constituents who might agree with him?
Well, they spent at least 20 million, maybe 25 million against me. And what they did is they expanded the pool of voters. And there were a lot of misinformed, uninformed voters. In fact, my daughter, who lives outside of my congressional district, she heard somebody in the voting booth next to her trying to find my opponent's name on the ballot because he didn't even know I wasn't his congressman. That's how much they've bamboozled the people here in Kentucky. They used artificial intelligence to create a video, lifelike video, that showed me checking into a hotel room with AOC and Ilhan Omar and holding hands with them. It was actually very effective on the boomers. But here's the thing, Kristen.
Did you hear that? Because they knew who to go after. He said it was very effective on the boomers. I'm sorry, but if you're going to hear boomer slander, I'm sorry, but They knew what they were doing because they know they're going after brainwashed people who just happen to be mostly boomers who are not hip to what's going on right now. They're glued to Fox News. They're glued to corporate media in general.
It's only going to work for a little bit longer. The boomers are going to, leave this country to the Gen X and the Gen Z and the Gen Y and the millennials. And those folks are the ones that I won overwhelmingly. That makes me really hopeful for this country. They don't get fooled by artificial intelligence, and they check the news. They get news sources like from podcasts and other sources. So they won this race by fooling my voters and expanding the base of people who vote to the uninformed voters. But look, I got 45% of the vote in spite of this tremendous headwind. That means 45% of the party still believe in the ideals that I believe in and have espoused in Washington, D.C.
And I want to add here, first of all, those AI ads should be illegal. Yeah. See, we don't have any laws in place. This is what I was saying about AI. There's no laws in place. How far can this go? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And yeah, we got to have a conversation about the boom booms at some point in time, because it's just golly, like, you guys, come on. You really got to get with it here. I wonder if Thomas Massie would do something different. Like, looking back on it, I know he did not want to run negative ads against his opponent. I wondered if he would do that differently now. And this is the same question many of us had during Bernie 2016 and Bernie 2020, where Bernie didn't really run those nasty attack ads against Biden or Hillary Clinton. And I think that he should have. There were a number of things that Bernie could have said about Joe Biden, his record, the crime bills, so forth. But he didn't, because Joe Biden was his friend, and that's just not his style, his nature. So I wonder if he would do that differently, if he could go back.
That's why you gotta leave the duopoly altogether. You gotta leave the duopoly altogether. Leave it all together.
I can do it all over again. Interesting question.
Ask you about something that you said in your speech on Tuesday night. You said, quote, if the legislative branch always votes with the president, we do have a king. Do you believe there is still room in the Republican Party for Republicans who vote independently?
You know what? Even the Freedom Caucus has caved at this point. They used to, basically the Freedom Caucus was formed so that 30 or 40 Republicans would have safety in numbers. They have no safety in numbers now. The principal ones are running for statewide office. They're getting out of Congress. I think there is room, though. You just got to go up there and vote your conscience. And you know what? I've inspired a whole generation of state representatives and city councilmen who are running for office. They send me direct messages. They send me emails. They've been inspired. I do believe there's room in the party, maybe not in Washington right now, but the next wave that's coming up, they're going to vote for people over parties.
Well, I want to ask you.
Yeah, let me interject here for just a second. That Freedom Caucus, you know where they got the idea of that from? That came from the Squad. This idea that you would have this narrow majority in the Democratic Party, and they would make sure that the progressive needs are met. Many of us supported them when they were running the first time around, the Justice Democrats. So they also did that on the Republican side. It was called the Freedom Caucus, and they actually forced the vote, which is what we wanted the Squad to do, but they actually did it. And they didn't want Kevin McCarthy as speaker, and they were very vocal about that, and they forced the vote for him not to be speaker, which is exactly what we asked, the Squad to do, to force the vote so that Nancy Pelosi would not be speaker unless she was willing to bring Medicare for all to the floor for a vote. So it's interesting how these things pan out.
Some of the issues now, Congressman. As you know, this week, we did see Republicans in Congress actually reject some of President Trump's priorities, refusing to vote on funding for both his ballroom and that $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. Some of the strongest opposition, quite frankly, that we have seen from members of Congress, Republicans, to President Trump to date. Do you think that the party is beginning to break with President Trump?
Well, listen, they're worried about their own political mortality. It's true you can take out Republicans in primaries, but Republicans are going to be very vulnerable this fall. The ballroom, I mean, that is such an egregious waste of money. We were told that it would be funded with private money initially. I like to joke that Miriam Adelson spent so much money in my race, they have to ask for taxpayer money for the ballroom now. And I think it's a slap in the face of Americans. The president was bragging on the Roman architecture, when in fact we're operating like a Roman empire. We're overextended overseas with our foreign aid, with our foreign bases. We're spending money that we don't have. And the gasoline and rent and groceries are so high that people can't afford it. I do think it's dangerous to indulge in these things like a gold-plated ballroom in Washington, D.C., while Americans are suffering.
Let me ask you a little bit.
Ballroom. Gold-plated. How ironic. The ballroom is going to be gold-plated.
More deeply about the anti-weaponization fund. The president is asking for $1.8 billion to support people who he says have been unfairly treated under the previous administration. This would include January 6th rioters. Congressman, do you support taxpayer dollars going to those who attacked police at the Capitol and attacked the Capitol on January 6th?
Well, if you're going to create a fund, it has to be voted on by Congress. The president can't do this by executive authority. Our founders would say, no, you can't do that. Listen, though, people have been harmed on the left and the right. Their First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights have been violated. And I do think that they should have some recourse.
But would you rule out giving money? Would you rule out giving money to?
Notice he said on the left and the right. Did everybody catch that about the First Amendment rights? Pay attention now.
Those who attacked or assaulted police officers?
The solution isn't to hand out money. The solution is to change the laws of this country where if you have been harmed, that you go before court and you hear both sides of this, and you could adjudicate those things about whether the person deserves the money or not. But that's what's so hard, is it's so hard to go against the federal government, whether you're on the left or the right. We need to change the laws when they infringe on your First Amendment, for instance, or your freedom to travel, or your freedom not to be vaccinated, that you put in laws where there's liability for the people that force that, whether it's private or government.
Did you notice what he just said? So, of course, he's not going to agree to that because he doesn't agree with you guys know he doesn't agree with like the spending, right? He doesn't agree with like handing out money. That's where we disagree on certain issues because I support those social programs. But notice he keeps saying on the left and the right. This is him not putting party above principle. Because a lot of people, what they're doing, the politicians, they're saying, oh, the Democrats are like, oh, the left is being attacked. They're attacking people on the left, like Hassan Piker and Medea Benjamin. Republican politicians are like, oh, they attacked the January 6th, agitators or whatever, right? But they're not talking about all of it, like both of them. So notice he said on the left and on the right. I think that is so important for people to hear. Here's the shocking part. Listen to this.
Congressman, we're almost out of time. Couple more here. I want to ask about the Epstein files. As you've noted, the speech and debate clause actually protects you from being prosecuted for whatever you say on the floor of the House. You have named names in the Epstein files in the past. Can we expect you to name more names in the coming weeks and months?
Yes. Todd Blanche is violating the law. There's still millions of files they haven't released. We know from talking to the victims' lawyers that their own 302 forms haven't been released. We know that files have been over-redacted. I have released at least 3 names of billionaires who are implicated in this. I don't think it's possible to get to convictions with Todd Blanche at the top and with the FBI director, Kash Patel, at the top, because they've effectively both perjured themselves by saying that there's nobody else in the files. Even Melania doesn't believe that. The first lady knows that Jeffrey Epstein didn't act alone. And here's the great thing, Chris.
You hear that? What did I tell you? Remember when Melania Trump made that cringe statement out of nowhere and said that I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I was not friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. I did not No, these people. Remember when she made that statement? And we were like, what are you doing? Like, where is this coming from out of nowhere? And then we talked about Amanda Ungaro, who was deported, and her husband is part of the Trump administration. Paulo Zampali is a part of the Trump administration, and he had her deported. And this woman was in that circle with Trump, Melania, and Epstein, and she was threatening to reveal information. That's why Melania came out to get out ahead of it. So Thomas Massie just dropped the bombshell and named her by name, saying that even she knows that he did not act alone. Well.
Whether I'm in Congress or not, the Epstein Files Transparency Act is a law, and it goes on for years. So if we can't get this Attorney General and this FBI director to do the right thing, the next ones who take those seats are obligated by law to release the files that these individuals are not releasing now.
Congressman,
drop the beat.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. So this is something some people may not have been aware of, that even though Thomas Massie won't be in Congress next year, it's a law. So whatever administration comes in next, by law, they are still required to release the rest of the files. Do you hear me? So I don't think everybody knew that. I thought this was it. Like, whatever you get now, this is it. Nobody else can do anything afterwards. So even if he's not there, by law, they're still required to release it. And, you know, on top of that, he's willing to name names.
Yep.
So at this point in time, I don't care what side of the political aisle you are on, protect Thomas Massie. And I'm willing to bet you that Ro Khanna will be right there beside him to name some names.
He better be. And he better have security by his side, too, because, hopefully he has security next to him. Ooh, it's going to be real interesting.
So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Let's go on here.
I want to ask about your political future. Some of your supporters were chanting "President, President" as you delivered your speech on Tuesday night. Are you considering a run for president in 2028?
I will not rule out anything, and right now I'm not going to rule in anything. Look, I spent the last 5 days on my farm with my grandkids and my cattle and my peach trees, and it's a pretty nice life. I don't know if I want to screw that up again. I've been in Congress 14 years fighting. Every hour that passes, I get decompressed a little bit more. It's like coming up from the bottom of the ocean. And I'll take some time and decide what's next. But I think I will stay engaged in some way or shape. Maybe it's from the outside. I've been exposing what's going on in Washington, D.C. for years, and I'll keep doing it.
Congressman, I hear you not ruling a potential run for president out. Would you run as a Republican?
I won't rule anything out. I won't rule out a run for county commissioner. I used to be the county judge executive here. That was probably the best job I ever had in politics. I would encourage people watching this show to act locally and to run for local offices. We can make a difference. There's 3,000 counties in this country. Run for one of those offices. We got to change it at the grassroots first.
All right.
That part there at the end. So first of all, it sounds like he's open. I do have an update on that, by the way. It looks like he's open to it, open to the possibility. He's not ruling anything out, basically. But what he said there at the end is what I really want people to take home. Like, you really need to concentrate more on local politics. Yes, he's right. We do need more people to run for these local offices, right? Whether it's city council, whether it's positions in the state house.
But yeah, part of his issue, though. A, he ran within he's running within the duopoly, but B, he's still a capitalist at heart. Like, he believes in unfettered capitalism, though health care for all, and other things like that. I'm like, but outside of that, the man's been on one. And he better have some security around him. And hopefully, please, before you go, read aloud the names of those in the Epstein files. Read aloud the names of those, everybody that you can in the Epstein files, of the names. Other than that, I'm going to call this stream, I'm going to just end the stream right here. And hopefully if you're celebrating Memorial Day, have a good one. If not, still have a good day. And keep your peace.